Hey everyone, Roger here from Ask Car Expert YouTube channel. Your brake's worn out? Let's see if you can just do a pad slap. Remember to take a second and like and subscribe. Zion, how do you tell if you can just do a pad slap? So you want to check a few things on your rotor. You want to make sure you don't have any excessive grooving. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of corrosion. If those things check out, the next thing to do is to measure the rotor to make sure it's above minimum spec. Now you always want to know what the spec is. On this one it's 18.4 as the minimum. It is stamped on the hat right here, so if you're not sure, of most cars it'll be stamped on here. You're going to use a micrometer to measure this, so you want to make sure that it's zeroed out. Bring the teeth together, make sure it reads about 0, and then you just go from the back side and just touch them together gently, don't squeeze it, and this reads 18.61. You want to make sure you check the outer and all the way towards the bottom, because you can have a discrepancy in height from the bottom and the top. So I got 18.7 on the bottom, and I think we said 18.6 at the top. Now if you squeeze this really hard, you can give yourself a false reading. So again, you just want to gently touch the surface of the rotor to get your measurement. These are above spec, so we're good to go ahead and do a pad slap. Quickly, some things you're going to need. Obviously you need your pads. I'm putting some new spring clips on this. You need an Allen, you need a sensor. I have 13 because you want to take this cover off to monitor the brake fluid level. Something to compress the piston back, a screwdriver to push the pads back, obviously a wrench, some torque wrenches, and your 1/2 inch impact with a 17mm. First thing I'm going to do is take the spring off, just compress it and pop her off. You can get in here and gently pry back the piston. Just move that a little bit. Let's go check our fluid level up front. Take this cover off. You just need a 13mm, and it's just a slight turn to release these. One more over here. That'll free up this cover. You can see it just slides out, and that gives us access to the reservoir. We don't want to overfill the reservoir because that will leak down, get on your driveway, and brake fluid eats paint. So back here we have these little caps. Now pop the cap off. You're going to save these. These are little protectors for the sliders. So we only have to take the caliper off to do a pad slap. Now you need a 7mm Allen. That'll go into the guide screw. You want to release the top and the bottom. I then like to just take a screwdriver and push the guide screws back a bit, which will help release the caliper. The guide screws out of the way, we can simply remove the caliper. Here's our old pad. We're not even going to take the bracket off, we're going to leave the bracket on. Take both these off. This just clips into the piston, so it just pushes out. Going to compress the piston. Going to compress the piston. Alright, gotta put this up here so it's not hanging. Now compressing the piston brings up your fluid level in the reservoir. So I'm actually at the max level now. So I'm probably gonna have to take some out before I do the other side, or else it can overflow. Alright, so I'm just gonna take my wire brush and clean the contact area where the pad sits. Remove any residual contaminants. Do that on both sides. I like to clean up the caliper a bit too. Gonna take our BMW brake paste and prepare our pads to help prevent any noises and squeaks. So you take some of this paste, you put it on all the contact areas. So it's going to slide here and here and here. This is where it's going to contact in here. And then you also want to put some, and that's going to help alleviate any brake noises. Take your pad, you can rest it right on the holder like so. That's going to stay right in place. Take your other pad with the spring, and that clips in to the piston of the caliper right here. Make sure that your sliders are still pushed back. And we just reassemble. Push your piston on. Slide these sliders back in. And I like to not use a ratchet to start these. I want to start them by hand on the top and the bottom, just to make sure that they're catching correctly. You don't want to cross thread these, or else you'll have to replace the caliper bracket or tap it and make sure it's still viable. So it is better to always start things by hand. All right, when you know you're good, now we can ratchet it in. Now these guide screws, the torque spec is 35 Newton meters. Take your caps, don't forget them, or else these sliders will get contaminated and can cause a failure. Your pads can't slide and they'll wear uneven. Now these spring clips can fail over time. This one's pretty old. The car's definitely getting up there in years. I'm gonna put a new spring clip on this. Basically, you just have to line it up. These two sit on the outside here. Line it up with the two holes. Then give it a push, and there it is right there, clipped in nice and easy. I always like to take a screwdriver and give it a tap. And there you go. And the torque spec of the wheel is 140 Newton meters. Here's a little quick tip. As long as you don't have the other side caliper off, you can go ahead and depress the pedal, which is going to take up some of that fluid that's in the reservoir and transfer it into the piston inside the caliper, which should reduce the level, and you might not have to suck any out for the other side. Right, Z? When you're tightening your wheels, you never want to blast them on. Improper torque of the wheels. Painted wheels, if the back hub is painted, that all can cause a brake vibration and can warp the rotor. So that's a no-no. You want to use a torque wrench. Torque spec on this is 140 Newton meters. Always tighten in a crisscross pattern. And then go over it a second time. Now the only difference between the passenger side and the driver's side is the sensor. So just make sure that when you're done, you rehook it on the bleed screw little rubber cap right here. That goes around and gets tucked on, then the cap gets put on. If you don't, it can rub on the tire and cause damage. Now the sensor runs up along this plastic cover here, comes back to the back area right here, comes to a holder here, to another plastic tab. You just pry that off, comes around this way, and it's under this cover, this wheel well. So you got to take this plastic rivet out right here that just pries out. You have a couple of 8s and 10s think there might actually even be both 8s under here, and then we can pull this back. This is the cover for right here. You just pry it down, and then these guys right here, just use a screwdriver and pop them off this way right here. There's the box right there. You just gotta pop those tabs down. All right, that's with it open. Press tab right here. Pop that off. All right, once the new sensor is installed, start routing it, and then just clip everything back on. Just route it the way that you took it off. Now this right here has to go over the top. You want to tuck that all the way around. Because this piece has to go up into the holder right back here. And then once you're clipped back there, route it underneath, and then push that cover back on right here. It comes this way here. Make sure to hook it onto the bleeder screw. We'll do that after. All right, so nipple side facing towards the outside. All right, there we go, locked in place. Now I usually put it in place and then use a little screwdriver to give a little bit of a push. Make sure it's locked in all the way. And then this is what you have to watch out for. That can rub on your wheel. So you want to make sure that's secured correctly. That goes around the bleed screw cover. Make sure that cap's put back on. And that keeps that nice and tucked in so it can't rub on your wheel. And there we go, that's a pad slap. I just have to put the screws back in here for the sensor and put the wheel on, and we're good to go. You wanna know what the hardest part about this job is? Recording it. Right, T? Yeah. Wheel torque 140 Newton meters. Well, almost done. Still have to put this cover back on. Make sure your fluid level is correct. See this slider right here? This is for water to go in. There's a opening right here. So that piece slides into that. Get that started, see how it lines up with the hood shock. Wiggle that in. Now I didn't take this piece off, so I have to tuck this underneath the other one, because that's how it should go. There we go. And now you can do your 90-degree lock. Now whenever you do a brake job, make sure to thoroughly press the brake pedal before starting off, because you won't have a brake pedal on your first press and you could actually hit something. And then of course we need to reset the service light. All right, need to shut the door, key it on. With the door shut, clear any check control messages just with the BC button. Press and hold the left instrument cluster button. Services come up. That's the rear brakes we just did. Press and hold again. Oop, I timed it out. Talking instead of pressing. Press and hold, no big deal. Press and hold, let go, press and hold. Ask to reset, press and hold. That's all you're doing. Press and hold, press and hold, press and hold. 40,000. That's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please remember to like and subscribe to Ask the Car Experts YouTube channel. And Zion says hi.